everyone, it's Margaret Manning here. Welcome to 60 and Me. This is the place where women over 60 come to be inspired. Now my guest today is Ashton Applewhite. Ashton is an author. She is an activist against ageism. She's spent a lot of her last 5 years of her life writing on this subject and researching people of all ages, but really talking about how we can get activated in pushing back against ageism in our society. So welcome, Ashton.
Thank you. It's great to be in touch with your community.
Thank you. Well, we're a big community. We're global. We're all around the world. There's about 500,000 of us that join in the website. And, our three premises, by the way, at 60 and Me were financial security, having money to live with, independence, and healthy aging. That's, the three pivots for us. And every single one of those are areas where there's discrimination and ageism.
Of course.
So,
well, aging is living.
Totally.
We're aging from the minute we're born. It's not just some inconvenient thing that your parents do or baby boomers do.
Quite. So what I want to talk to you about in this segment is to actually, let's roll up our sleeves and talk about how we actually get activated, what we can do to change our own opinions about ageism, and also how we can make an impact in the world. So just tell us what you think is the best way to start.
Well, the old saw is that change begins inside each of us, and it's true. If we don't look first at our own attitudes towards aging, which means looking at our own bias, which is uncomfortable, but the minute you start to see it, you see it everywhere, and it is like letting a genie out of the bottle. And it is truly liberating to realize that the attitudes that we all have, which are predominantly negative, to see how they are reinforced by the culture. The women's movement, the tool that catalyzed the women's movement was consciousness raising, which is an old-fashioned term, but it really is apt. I don't write a book very often because writing a book is horrible. But 20 years ago, I wrote a book called Cutting Loose: Why Women Who End Their Marriages Do So Well. And it's available. And I realized I'm a little slow, like almost a year after it came out, whoa, I had my consciousness raised. This time around, I realized it a little sooner. And my book is $20 American, but this guide is downloadable for free. There's a thischairbox.com resources. You'll see right there a pamphlet. You can just download it and print it, called Who Me? Ageist? How to Start a Consciousness Raising Group around age bias. So one thing that I urge people to do is to download it and read it, because it has a bunch of questions. What happened with consciousness raising and the women's movement is that women came together and realized that what they had been thinking of as personal problems, they were frustrated at work, or their lives didn't have a purpose, or their children weren't blonde enough, or their boobs weren't big enough, whatever it was, were not personal problems. The way we think now, my chin isn't what it used to be, or I can't get a raise, or these are not personal problems. These are widely shared political problems that require collective action. So if you have if it calls to you, start a consciousness raising group and get together and talk about your attitudes towards aging, because that will bring you to the next step, which is to look at where these messages come from and what purpose they serve.
Yeah. Can I just stop you there for a second, Ashton? Because I actually did download that document, and I really loved it. It's simple. It's like 3 pages, I think. It's not very, it's not huge. But what I loved about it, I just wanted to, because you were talking about questions, and I want to kind of just bring it to life, because I've got the piece of paper in my hand.
Good idea.
So
specifics are always good.
And these are great questions. And so there's a couple of them. I mean, things like, first of all, in your mind, how old are you? Do you try to look younger than you are? Just the topic of, is aging different for men and women? And as I read through these questions, we do actually ask some of these questions in 60 and Me. In a way, I think we are trying to raise the consciousness, but virtually. And I think what you're saying is get together, like we did in the women's movement, together in person. And if we can't do that, do it in a community, of course, online, and go to your website and join your conversations on, is this ageism? Or, what is it?
Is this ageist? That is a Q&A blog. And I also have a very active This Chair Rocks Facebook page.
This
If
is
you're
great,
on
yeah.
Facebook, just where I post a ton of stuff, but thoughtfully,
Perfect.
that's all ageism specific. And it's easy to join on there. I modeled Yo, Is This Ageist on this fantastic pre-existing site called Yo, Is This Racist? Because as a culture, we have difficulty talking about race. I don't think we have a hard time talking about ageism. I just think it's a new idea to people. So it's where you can ask me a question or send in a picture or a link to something and say, is this ageist?
Okay.
Or say why you thought it was ageist. Because it's not always ageism. Sometimes it's just a reflection of the fact that we're different ages and it's different. But, basic litmus test, if a similar comment on the basis of race or sex would raise your eyebrows, it's probably not okay.
So your Facebook group, sorry, go ahead.
Is This Chair Rocks on Facebook.
Okay, This Chair Rocks is on Facebook. Perfect. Okay, sorry.
So the next step is to think about how these attitudes play out in the culture and to call them out. And just a really good all-purpose answer when someone says something ageist to you, and you can't think of the, perfect snappy answer. Although I do have the perfect snappy answer to when someone says you look great for your age, you just say with a straight face, you look great for your age too. And have them think about why that didn't sound like a compliment when they heard it. That's what you want to do, is force that moment of reflection. And I say force because I'm an honest person. It's uncomfortable. You are asking someone to look at their own bias. But once you see it, it changes. And that's how we make the change happen in the culture. All-purpose comment, why would you say that?
I love that you use the word
why are you calling me sweetie?
Yeah.
So that's how we push the change out in the culture. And as for the next step, I'm doing this for the first time. I bet in that community of women out there are grassroots organizers. There are veterans of the women's movement.
Yes.
We need actions.
Yes.
We need editorials. We need chapters. There's a group here called the Radical Age Movement, and I'm going to put up on my site under resources, the same place, you can find the Consciousness Raising Guide, a guide on how to start a chapter, start an organization, draw on what you know, and move forward in whatever way feels right to you. But we need to be visible. Show up as a group of older women to a meeting or a demonstration of something else. And when they call you grannies, say, what does my reproductive status have to do with it? And are you calling those guys over there granddads? What's up with that?
Yeah, until we get out there in the world, though, and start doing things that shatter the stereotypes organically, like without having to force it. Like, for example, traveling. I travel solo, and people always go, aren't you afraid of traveling solo? Or you just do things that are ageless, that don't have any definition of age. They see us starting businesses. They see us, working with all ages, mixing with young people, water skiing, or whatever we do.
Or just, it doesn't have to be physical.
Exactly.
I couldn't get up on water skis if the water was filled with piranha. It's just not going to happen.
Neither could I, to be honest. But maybe walking a marathon. So I think we have to be
careful about. I think the message in society a lot is that aging successfully, a term I loathe, is continuing to look and move like younger versions of ourselves. And even if we can water ski, one of these days we're not going to be able to. Yeah. So rather than, we can continue to do versions of the things we love, which is great. And I think you bring up something really important, which is it's dopey to try and do things that we think will make us look young, because that's impossible. We can only look at the age we are. But if there's something that you want to do and you are reluctant to do it because you will stick out because of your age, I really urge you to resist that impulse and go there. Perhaps someone will, look sideways at you or be snotty, but the odds, most people won't pay any attention. And there will also be those people who go, oh, look, she's over there, and that means when I'm her age, I can do that. You will be disrupting their stereotype of what older people like to do or are good at or blah, blah, blah. And that is also how we change the world.
And especially for younger women. I remember when I actually left my corporate job, this is 4 years ago, and I left my job deliberately. The project had ended, but I decided to go. And I talked to all the younger, women in their 30s and 40s, and they were like, you're going to start a business? And it was just, and to them, it was like, they actually said, I've been afraid of getting older. The fear of aging happens in your 30s and 40s these days. And
casts a shadow across your whole life.
Yeah. And it was sort of like, she's doing this, and I feel more comfortable about getting a little older now because it
Yeah.
doesn't stop,
It is really important
Yeah.
for younger and older women to come together. And I am working on something that I would love help from. One thing I would love to see in the world, and I'm not a teacher, is curricula that teach kids about ageism at the same time they learn about sexism and racism. I bet there's some teachers out there listening who could make that happen. And this is a very, very complicated ask that is theoretical. But if you think about the model now for women, we are conditioned to compete against each other, to look young, to see who looks younger. And you do not need a PhD in feminist studies to realize that that behavior reinforces sexism. It reinforces looksism, the idea that the most important thing about you is how you look, right? And it reinforces ageism because younger is better. And I'm working on a workshop with a friend called You Will Look Like Me, to bring younger and older women together so that exactly what you just described around work happens around life. That yes, you do stop looking the way you do, but you also gain all kinds of cool stuff. And it's not that the scary stuff isn't real. It's that let's tell both sides of the story and stop being ashamed and stop competing to look young. Do we want to dig the hole deeper? Do we want to reinforce ageism and sexism and patriarchy? Or do we want to throw away the damn shovel and come up with radically new and better ways of thinking and behaving and supporting each other? As long as older women and younger women are pitted against each other, we will never bust up the patriarchy. Yeah. So let's do it differently.
So you sound, I read somewhere that you are the Gloria Steinem of the ageist revolution. That she was the woman who led the women's revolution, the women's consciousness raising. I mean, how do you feel about that kind of analogy? Because you certainly got the energy and the determination, and you know what I'm saying, in the sense that there is it's something to be looked at and for people to come together, and that word consciousness is more than education. It's actually from the spirit, from the heart, rather than from just reading a book or even role playing. It's
right. I mean, another phrase that did originate in the women's movement is the personal is the political. How we choose to relate to our own aging and take it out in the world is a deeply political act. And by simply embodying the spirit and ethos that you talk about at 60 and Me, we are making that change by refusing. I mean, I said in the TED Talk, it's embarrassing to be called out as older until we quit being embarrassed about it, right? I'm over it. I'm not embarrassed. And I know I take that out in the world. I decline to be invisible. If that means walking with my, arm up in front of me in a crowd so no one bumps into me, that's what I do. If I have to bang on the damn bar, I'll bang on the bar.
Well, I think that we've gone through some really wonderful options for people to follow here. I mean, number one, I think take a look at...
I'm not saying people should be like me.
No.
I am not saying you have to do what I do. That's my way because I'm a pushy New Yorker who's completely pissed off.
And they all go around with their arms up like...
I probably shouldn't have said
you
that.
You have to in New York. No. Look, what you're saying is really, really cool. And I think there's plenty of resources. Number one, go to the website, check out thischairrocks.com because it really is a great resource. The book is great.
And the blog,
Download.
There's a blog there that has all my research. It's just thischairrocks.com/blog. Yo, Is This Ageist is a separate Q&A blog that you can find the same way.
And then go to the Facebook page because that's where, a lot of our activity with 60 and Me happens on Facebook. We have a huge amount of conversation and dialogue. And when we process these videos, Ashton, we'll put them up on YouTube, but they'll also be shared on Facebook. So we can constantly, I think you and I can be filtering, directing each other to their sites because our people would love to. I know that, like you said, there are women out there who have been active in just not just politics, but active in changing perceptions in society about getting older.
I'm uncomfortable with the Gloria Steinem thing because I want 1,000 Gloria Steinems. This movement is going to need 1,000 leaders. There are a million of you out there who have capacities that I don't have. And in any case, there's only one of me. So take whatever piece of this makes sense to you and run with it. And I really do urge you to read the book. It's even cheap. It's cheaper on Kindle. And it contains everything I know, and it's really fun to read.
Great. Well, and I do recommend it too. And by the way, the Gloria Steinem comment was a very big compliment, because I think the difference is in her day, there was just her. She didn't have the scale. So she was really
She didn't have the internet.
Yeah, exactly.
And, and I think when she emerged as a leader of the feminist movement, I think the notion that a woman could run a company as well as a man actually had people scratching their heads. Like, I have to think about that. Today, to say, I ask people what they think of as criteria for diversity, and everyone says race and sex and, gender and ability. And then I say, what about age? And no one says, I have to think about that.
Yeah,
they know instantly, intuitively, that in a diverse, multicultural society, which, like it or not, and I love it, is what we are becoming, that it is crazy to be divided on the basis of age, that age is a criterion for diversity. The ground is plowed. So I think we're just sort of hitching that wagon, hitching the age diversity movement, if you will, to that sled. And I think the ground is really fertile and ready for it everywhere in the world. I don't think I'm going to have as tough a slog as Steinem did. May she live long. I hugely admire her.
Yeah, I do too. Well, look, on that note, let's encourage all our 16 members to go out and read your book, and just get on, like you said, get on board. Do what you can. You don't have to be pushing people in the streets of New York, but just do what comes from your heart.
You don't have to jump out of airplanes. You don't have to do anything you don't feel like doing. But I urge you to think about your own attitudes towards aging and where they come from.
Good words to hear. And I'm actually really I've enjoyed reading this consciousness raising workbook, or what did you call it? It's called Who Me Ageist.
Yeah.
It's a really, really thought provoking. And so let's start there and keep having the conversation. We're on the journey together. Hey,
everybody is, like it or not.
Thanks, Ashton. It's great chatting.
It's more fun if you like it.
Yeah. Let's have fun together. Okay. Thanks again for being here. Really appreciate your time.
You're very welcome.
Thank you. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to our 60andMe YouTube channel and also visit our website. We are a strong and dynamic community of women over 60. We're challenging aging stereotypes, and every day we share fascinating stories, interesting questions, and great conversation.